In a recent interview, the singer and poet Bob Dylan talked about his new music, his life on the road, and happiness. He said this. He said, okay, a lot of people say there is no happiness in this life, and certainly no permanent happiness. I'm not exactly sure what happiness even means, to tell you the truth. I don't know if I personally could define it. And then the interviewer asked him if he had ever experienced it. And he said this. He said, we all do at certain points, but it's like water. It slips through your hands. As long as there's suffering, you can only be so happy. How can a person be happy if he has misfortune? What a very interesting question. How can a person be happy if he or she has misfortune? Well, that question certainly challenges the theme of the Scriptures this weekend. The joy of the Israelites as the Lord leads them through their misfortune. The psalmist telling us that the Lord has done great things for us and we are filled with joy. You see, Dylan talks about happiness. The Scriptures don't. The Scriptures talk about joy. There's quite a difference. Happiness is elusive, as Dylan points out. It slips through our hands like water. Joy is something deep within, that is so deep, the Scriptures tell us, that no misfortune can deny it or destroy it. You see, joy is the result of a firm faith in the gospel message that we just heard, that the winding roads will be made straight and the rough ways made smooth. And how interesting it is that so many mystics will tell us that one really cannot experience real joy without misfortune. How many of you have ever heard of the man by the name of Coco Schumann? If you hadn't, many jazz buffs celebrate him as one of the world's finest jazz guitarists. After World War II, he played gigs with Marlene Dietrich and Ella Fitzgerald. He presently lives in Berlin, and he's in his 90s. He quips that when he gets old, he'll finally quit. There's a musical about his life that's playing in Germany, and it is arousing the people to standing ovations. And this is because his story is so interesting. When he was 19, a German turned him into the Nazis for being Jewish. He was sent to Auschwitz, where he immediately was told to start a jazz band. He was forced to play every day for the SS hangman, hours and hours on end. He said, what we saw in those days was unbearable, yet we bore it. We played the tunes for them for the sake of our bare survival. We played music in hell. And to this day, he's only shared a fraction of what he experienced in Auschwitz. But one memory that haunts him is the forsaken, forlorn look of the children who stared him in the eye while they were marched to the gas chamber, passing his orchestra. And the orchestra was playing an uplifting tune such as La Paloma, the words of which were, singing joyous and free, oh, we're going, none so gay as we. And he says he didn't look away from the eyes of these children. He said they knew exactly that they were going to the gas chamber. There were no words to explain it, he said. It was monstrous. And when he was asked what kept him going, he said, I decided I could either live the rest of my life being broken by Auschwitz or be joyful that I survived. It's not about happiness. It's about a joy that's so deep that none of the monstrous realities of life can destroy it. Coco Schumann in his 90s has this joy. He finds the power of God so alive inside of him in his music that he's never allowed life to rob him of this joy. To this day, in his 90s, he refuses to be defined by his stay in the death camps. He says this, "I am a musician who survived the death camps, not a survivor who is a musician." You cannot be happy without being joyful, but you can be joyful without being happy. You see, happiness is external. Joy is internal. Happiness depends on outward circumstances. Joy depends on inward character. Happiness depends upon what happens to you. Joy depends upon who lives within you. Happiness is based on chance. Joy is based on choice. The word happiness comes from an old English word, hap, H-A-P-P, which literally means chance. It corresponds to the Latin fortuna, which means luck. You see, if things happen the way we want them to happen, then we're happy. But if they don't happen the way we want them to, we are unhappy. Happiness is temporary and fickle. Joy is permanent and settled. Joy demands a deep faith and trust in God. Now, Bob Dylan's search for meaning is also very interesting. He was born Jewish, but in 1979, he experienced the Christ. And much of his music since 79 has been very biblically centered. He told an interviewer this, he said, "There is a superior power. This is not the real world, and there is a world to come." His music is his spirituality. And if you really listen to it, it's profound. In one of the songs called Duquesne Whistle, the lyric is, "I can hear a sweet voice gently calling, must be the mother of our Lord." In the song Soon After Midnight, the lyric is, "I'm searching for phrases to sing your praises. I need to tell someone." In the song Narrow Way, he sings, "It's a long and narrow way. I can't work up to you. You'll surely have to work down to me someday. Look down, angel, form the skies. Help my weary soul to rise. I heard a voice at the dusk of day saying, 'Be gentle, brother, be gentle and pray.'" Dylan may find happiness fleeting and slippery, but it seems to me that he has been searching a long time and perhaps does experience real joy in his music. And at the center of this joy is the God he has been searching for and believes in. Joy is the mark of a man or a woman searching and believing in a power greater than oneself. Dylan in his music believes in a greater power and the temporary nature of this world. Coco Schumann found joy in the depth of his music, and in the depth of that music is God giving Coco the strength to believe in life. Now, if we're sitting here and we really don't believe this, we don't believe it's possible, I recommend that you simply watch the documentary on the Amish people. There's tremendous disbelief that anyone could wholeheartedly forgive the man who murdered their children back in 2006. Well, the commentator of that documentary said this: "The Amish know that they are totally connected and part of a much larger divine reality, which looks naive to the rest of us. But they know what is real and what is passing away, which explains their joy in the midst of misfortune. As we gather together this evening on this second Sunday of Advent, we certainly gather together aware that we are living in a very dangerous and scary world. There is much fear and anxiety all around us. Yet the Scriptures call us the second Sunday of Advent not to despair. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. May this Advent season be a time where each one of us searches the depths of our lives to strengthen our belief in the God who, as the Gospel says this weekend, will make the winding road straight and the rough ways smooth.